mean, I can't just go into your drive.
No, you're good. It's easier because I'm using it. Share ADAM. CBOC. Bang. Done. Awesome. Yay! Happy Wednesday. So, and part of the redo with this as well is we're gonna, because I'm expecting more supply next year, right? So this year was probably the worst year ever for supply. Kidding, right? Like when you look at the chart, it just was awful, right? So, and it was set up by the government who made this great decision to pump all this money into the system and lower interest rates. Now everybody's, it's created a nightmare for us because nobody wants to sell. But I think if prices start to decline, which I can see a little bit in the Glendale, in the West Valley and in the Southeast Valley, versus the luxury markets already starting to decline a little bit more, that if prices start to slide multiple months in a row, I think we'll see an onslaught of inventory, because I think there's lots of people that have, because if you heard yesterday in the meeting with Eric,
What's it called? What's it called?
It's called it says presentation. Did you it not?
It didn't come through, but if I search for it, I should be able to find it.
Sell with pictures.
Got it. Continue. That's it, right?
Yeah, awesome. Good deal. Hi, I'm Jeff Sklack. That's for tomorrow. So, all right. So, go to slideshow. Yeah. Go to the second one. Okay. Yes.
Love it.
What I'm trying to teach you today is how to utilize pictures and show your work at the same time, because we have too many conversations where we expect people to understand what we're talking about without giving them any background. And the reason is because you're in real estate. You have a real estate education. You went through classes. Now you come to classes all the time. Your definitions are different than the way that they perceive the answers, right? When you say supply, they think one thing. When you say demand, and there's a reason why it says, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? Because unfortunately, everybody tries to write out everything, and people don't read words unless you're an engineer or, from some countries, they read more than ours. We'll just say it that way. Okay, but this is to make a stark revolution of why you would never, right? Like, I want you to think of this picture every time you're having a conversation trying to convince somebody, because the most common thing I hear of agents when we get into deals that get difficult, right? Like get off track and, the lender's late or something happened. Most commonly, they're like, they didn't listen to me. Right? Same thing for me in your team meeting when I talk and we don't take notes. Like the reality is it's difficult to remember things if you don't write them down. But usually when you're talking to someone, they're not writing it down. So that makes the communication very, very difficult, and why this works. All right, let's look at the first one. So what's selling with pictures every time, like just be conscious of when you're, in all aspects, you always want to be able to use a photo to try and give them a better image of what you're talking about, and it will lead to higher conversions. It's going to save you time. It will decrease the amount of conversation you have to have with people. Right? The reason why you're repeating it over and over again, because you're trying to not just convince them of doing something, you're educating them first, and to educate people through words is very, very difficult, as I have experienced over the last 12 years. Okay, but this is what, to me, is the big difference. So let's look at number one. Okay, The CN, no, yeah, thank you. This is just the process for a listing, okay? Pretty simple, but I just wanted to make it this way to say it a little different than I've said it in the past. In that the reason why when you meet somebody that owns a house, but it's not listed, the reason why you want to drop off a CMA is, again, you're separating yourself from the competition. Right? Because they're going to remember that. But basically, you're dropping off a photo deck for them about you. Right? So it's your first impression of them. They meet you or they have a conversation with you, and then they get a packet. It's something I call process over product, but they're like, this person's got it going on. Right? There's one out of 1,000, it's a negative, but the other 999, it's a huge boost to your presence, presenting a CMA with photos every time. And the reason I put no comps is because it's called comparative market analysis, and it has no comps. It's because it's really just a marketing document, especially because we're in the US and everybody can find their value online. Right? So that's not as a black box as it used to be, that they could at least get a general area by looking at realtor.com, looking at Redfin, looking at Zillow. It's at least in the ballpark. They don't know exactly, but they actually don't believe that you know exactly either. It's your just best opinion. Okay, so number 2.
Can I ask real quick?
Please. Welcome, Carlos.
So you said you will review CMA photos, as in, like, do we take pictures of maybe their last
I'm going to show
listing?
you,
because I know it's for CMA 1, correct?
Thank you. So let me clarify, because I did not. The bold things, we're going to walk through actual examples. Okay, I'm going to show you why and how I use them and what we came up with and behind that. So we're going to review so you can see exactly what I mean. So it's, again, see how even talking to you, Carlos, you're like, well, what is that? Right? Like I'm using words and this is why I'm going to show you pictures, because then you're going to know exactly what I mean. Did I answer your question? Go back. We're not done. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah.
Right.
As in, you will review during this.
Next.
Yeah,
This
instead
is
of
just
actually in person. Yeah, I get it.
I know you're confused because I'm using standard real speak, which is I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to show you what I told you, and then we're going to review it. So yeah, this is just an outline of kind of to show you the different pieces of how I show your work through the listing appointment, how I'm constantly showing them pictures because of the success of it. Okay, so then, because I'm trying to show my work, because people appreciate investment, and especially when it's new information. So number 2, record the listing appointment to capture every detail. So the reason why I created this, one, it's very consumer friendly, but if you record it and then it's so that they don't have to ever repeat themselves. The idea is, because whenever you're meeting with someone, your goal is to, one thing I've been trying to teach my kids is, like, when you go there, you're trying to capture as much information from them. And then you want to show them that you captured it, because the other people are not going to do that. Think about it. If you've never recorded a listing appointment, maybe it's because you're not used to it. It's different. But the whole idea is we're trying to show our work and be different. And that's what that does. So the picture in this case is going to be, it should be highlighted. It's the Evernote after typed up. I'm going to show you, because I emailed them a picture of all the upgrades, what we discussed, the pricing, the commission, everything. And then at the bottom of it is the marketing, which we didn't discuss, right? Like, so it's meant to have 2 aspects, but because we didn't talk about marketing, it talks about the 5 or 6 ways that we market a house in that Evernote. So Jenny adds that underneath the notes if you ever looked at it. Okay, number three, too many times I have people tell me that they send a CMA, which is usually just line by line, this house sold for this house sold for this, right? And that's good. But what you're trying to do is the way I prefer to sell and why it's successful is I help educate them, and you can't really, you're just looking at numbers when you're looking on a sheet, and why showing them in the listing appointment pictures of that house versus there, it just gets them there. It shows your knowledge, and it educates them so that they list it at the right price. Because we've had more cancellations this year, and that means we're listing prices too high, which means we're not getting through to them to list lower, right? And I think that showing the pictures list gets them to understand price better. And then there's the follow-up email with the listing and notes. The listing appointment notes is that Evernote recording. Because after the listing appointment, I used to always hate, because I'd be like, oh, when do I call them? What do I say? Like, I really just want to know if I won or not. Now you have something, now you have a something that you essentially dangled out there, but you showed them that now you can call and say, hey, did I hear you right? Right? Did you have a chance to review that? Did I miss any upgrades on there? As a chance for you to follow up without being like, well, did I win? Did I win? Did I win? And then the last piece is introducing the stager. And then, because again, the stager is just the way it's, when the stager contacts them, it's additional person showing up. The idea with the stager is that we have a thing called the Louis. It was named after Phil's grandfather, right? When you
I have a recording of it if you want it.
Thank you. Right. But when you want to do the Louis, when you want to start working for the people, you're making the assumption that you won. Right. Yeah. But then you start doing the work, and it shows them how much you want to win. And that's why that stager, you're like, oh, don't, they said that, like, these are the backbones of the listing and why I win, or why I have one. All right, next. So this is, to me, show you why it worked. Like, so this is the methodology I used in 2017 to list 71.8 for 6 of the house. I mean, I went by myself. I won 109 listings in that year, right? For a little about 60 million. So I'm telling you, because this works, right? The market has not changed that much since then, and I continue to use these things. It's not like I don't go out on that many appointments anymore, but this is just, why should I listen? Why should I copy what Jeff's doing? Is because it won like a banshee, right? Like, you're talking about, that's months. If you can see, that's January. I had 16 appointments. We got 13 listings. It's a good month, right, Kevin? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Next month I had 12 listing appointments, and I got 13 listings, probably one from thing, right? Like, you get the idea, but all right, next. But to me, it's more convincing when you see the numbers, right? Like, you're re-energized by, okay, so this is the first package that they're going to receive. So we got a competitor's CMA, and this is what it looked like. And I just wanted to take this opportunity for all marketing, because this is just a marketing document. When you write too much, you're not getting your message across, right? Because who in here wants to read that? You don't, right? Like, you don't look at that and you're like, oh. I mean, I get you're good, all that stuff. I mean, you kind of, it just, we're missing the target. The idea is, the whole idea of the CMA is for you to get an appointment, not to give the, you know, to puke on the client is what they call that in sales, is you're not there to throw up on them. You're there to create a vision for them, and that's why showing selling with pictures works. All right, next, let's look at our CMA. And don't get me wrong, when we first started, ours was more like that, and we've realized that it doesn't work. So we moved away from it. So the point is that it's comes in a folder. It's not individual pages. It's just organization, it's branding, it's template. It's just speaking highly of you because you look organized. Again, it's called process over product. I just look organized whenever I present information. So let's look at the CMA. So a little bit of writing, but you can see a lot more pictures. And what we were trying to do is perceive what? Looking at that, go back and look at that.
That we get a lot of good reviews.
Yeah, just that we're everywhere, right? Like that we're
That's-
number one in the agent by this, by Real Trends, that we sell houses for more, that you're just trying to show them essentially that as featured and indicates that you're marketing in all of these places. That's what's perceived that way. And that all that means is we were written up in those places. So that's just one, trying to give people a good impression of us. And if you're new, right, you want this because it's called borrowed authority. So the thing about borrowed authority is when you're on the team, it's okay to promote my name or the Seabach name because you're under that. It's kind of like LeBron James and the Lakers, right? If we promote the Lakers, it's still, he's on that team, right? Like it's still collected. And the reason is because this is who we want. You want them to Google, because it's when you look at the Google and you see all the reviews and you go out there and you see reviews on Google, you see reviews on Zillow, right? They're like, okay, because what the idea is that if you get in trouble, you have this behind you. That's the whole point of this, is that we're here to support you, and that's something that you should be conveying with it. Any questions?
I use that all the time when talking to sellers. If one of our team members has sold one in the neighborhood, I can say, yeah, we just sold one right around the corner over here. And it lets me seem like I'm a more area specialist because I can use all the sales from our team.
Right, because one of the things that you want to be bragging about in there is your network of agents on the team, right? Like they want to know that we are, because that's who's gonna, I mean, they're all working with 5 buyers, right? Like, 40 agents, you're talking about that we're working with 1,000 buyers currently to help you try and sell your house. Any other questions? Okay. That's just the insert, right? And you can add inserts or subtract inserts because it's up to you what goes in the packet. Next one. We learned this from Amy Jones. We stole this. Okay, so that's why I'm giving it to you is it's copy. Don't, everybody always wants to recreate the wheel. That's long, tiresome, and I've recreated the wheel a lot. And then I was like, F it. Why am I trying to always create more work for myself? Why not? If something's 80% good enough, I called it rule of 8. It's just use it, because for you to create it, the amount of time for the impact of, is it important that I'm not shown? That's what usually with agents, like my picture's not there. Not as important as you think it is. You feel it is. If you have, it's why we were creating individual inserts for agents to put in. You just have a me page, right? So it's still just showing that because we had more of what it looked like in that Scanlon photo, and then we went to these pictures and the reviews there. So it's making it about people. People like to look at eyeballs. They focus. They like to look at. Also, it's spreading out the reviews amongst all these different people, and that they're all real. I put this one in there because it is more message driven, because too many times people, because I'm dropping off the CMA typically before they're ready for the listing appointment. Okay, the idea of the CMA is to, whenever you meet them and it's not listed, you're generating it, so it's before. People selling their house for some unknown reason feel that they should look on the internet to fix up their house, right? Like, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, why our knowledge is better is because it's tied to selling houses. It's not tied to what looks good. And that what I noticed is sometimes I'd show up and they painted the back fence for $4,000. And I'm like, but you could have painted your cabinets that are oak for $5,000. So the difference in that is about 10 or 20 grand, because painting that wall meant nothing. But once they go through the work of doing that, that's why I tell people, they're like, well, we're not ready for you. They think for some reason, because they watch TV, they watch Love It Enlisted, and they show up and it's this slide is if you can get them to you want to advise them what should be fixed up, not let them choose, because hopefully we can affect that value. You're trying not to let them waste money, because often I would show up because they go through their, it's hey, you get there and they're like, we just replaced the roof and the air conditioning. Well, that has a 20% return. It's better, but we have all sold houses that the air conditioning unit's 9 years old. Do they have to replace it? No, it's the same as new. I mean, it's not, but if you paint the cabinets and put quartz in, and then put stainless steel appliances in with that $30,000, then you get more money for your house, because we can negotiate the repairs. But that's what this is after, is trying to help people focus on the 4 most important areas of the house when improving, because people pay for visual stuff, and the roof it's expected that you're going to have a roof on your house and it's going to work. But if that roof is 14 years old and you replaced it, unfortunately that 10 grand or 15 grand or whatever, 25 grand, whatever you spent, always could have been better somewhere else. Meaning, I often would tell people, well, spot fix it, don't replace the whole roof, because it's not needed. Questions on that? And all of this is based on that we've sold 5,000 houses. Like, we're supposed to get better at something the longer we do it. So what you're going to do is, like, you're hiring me to save our team agent, because we've learned from selling 5,000 houses, right? Like, this is stuff that it's unequivocally the most important thing to do. It's no longer, we're not guessing with anything. When you're on the internet, you're taking the advice of whoever wrote that article. Like, that person may have never sold houses before. How do they know better than you? Questions? All right, next. It's all about marketing, right? When you want to list more houses, it's all about marketing. Is that they want to know that their house is everywhere, including they want it in the, I don't know why they want it in the magazines, but they, this is just to show them our marketing, meaning that the photos, right? You can see we're getting a lot more views on the stuff that we did. You can see more reviews. The slide underneath is the, can you exit? And let's look at it. I gotta shoot that different, but there you go. So why we have this in is just to show that you can see in that Zillow, and it's something that you can talk about, is that we get more traffic than other people. Why? Because we do more marketing than other people. It's really, the reality is they typically, the other people don't do any other marketing other than put it in MLS. So we do a lot more open houses than everybody else. That every time that's out, the additional marketing. We make sure we are very specific in how we organize our photos, right? But take photos. So does everybody else. Everybody talks about the photos. This is talking about every internet site, meaning like Zillow or Realtor.com, depending on how you interact with that site depends on whether you get saves or not. Obviously, we're a Zillow Premier partner, so we know everything to do. We know all the buttons, we know all the levers, we know how to get the most exposure. They're constantly sharing this information, and it translates into what I like to do is just point to the front door, and that's just be like, we're gonna drive more traffic through the front door than everybody else. That's just a fact, right? Real buyer traffic. Questions? Okay, I think that's the end for the CMA. Yeah, so you've you met somebody at open house. You asked the 5 questions on the CBOC drive from what it says to talk about the questions of the open house, and because that's your goal to find out if a visitor's a looky-loo. Because the thing is there's no such thing as a looky-loo. That just means that's a neighbor convincing you that they're not going to sell, when actually the only reason why neighbors come to look at houses is so that they know the future of value of their house. It's the only reason to go look at houses, unless you're lonely or whatever, not everybody, but it's, 80% of people that visit that own a house in a neighborhood are going to list in the next 2 years. Now, of course, because of 3% mortgages, it might be 3 years or 4 years. But the idea is the CMA is to create listing appointments. When I started sending the CMA, my listing appointments went up by 10x from not dropping off CMAs. Right? Like I was getting 3 to 5 listing appointments, and then as you can see, I went to 16. So what is that? I guess it's only 3 times, but still there was just a lot more listing appointments because you're impressive. When you drop off the CMA, you're impressive. So now we're gonna segue over to what does it look like in the appointment, right?
Quick question.
Yep.
Would you drop off CMA 1 to an expired listing?
Yes, but you have to understand you're losing the effect of that because everybody else is going with that. I think you have to do more for an expired listing.
Roger.
Because the amount of pressure on expired listings right now is massive. Meaning the amount of agents trying that, there's in our area, there's probably 20 agents that are calling, sending packages to expired listings. Like, that is a high competition. Of course, they're going to sell. It just won't have the same effect. Meaning I would not, if I saw one, I would drop it off, sure. But I'm not gonna, my strategy isn't, okay, I'm gonna go drop off these packets because we tried it. We tried dropping, it doesn't make the phone ring. It's your follow-up that wins. You calling that person 20 times is what wins expired listings more than, because they're gonna get 3 or 4 of them, and then likely the package is going to be more elaborate from somebody else. Meaning they're sending leather bound boxes and like Tiffany gifts, and like, honestly, it's if you want to go after it, you got to up your game. If you want to try and, this is more the tiger in the woods that we're trying to draw them out. So it looks special to them because they're not getting, if they get 3 packages and yours is the worst, do you have a chance of winning? You do, but it's just a lot less versus if you're the only one, they visit 12 open houses and you're the only one that drops off a folder. That's why you win. Because they're like, that's different, but it's better. It's nice. It's because the thing about the CMA is you listened. I talked to you about real estate and you heard me. Package shows up. What did I say? Well, I'm a real estate professional and I have Maricopa.gov. You told me you were on this street over here and you told me that you bought it in 16. I just used the government software to look you up. I'm a realtor, like I'm an expert. I can't help it. When you talk to me about houses, I want to know about your house. I can't wait to see it. I'd love to see it. Like, when can I come? Other questions? Okay. I think it's uber important to bring a computer, a laptop, or a pad because of the pictures that you can deliver during the listing appointment. When I hear people talk, oh, well, I didn't go over to the house. Like, you're missing your opportunity to make your presentation. Like, you always want to push, can I come over and look at it? Anything changes. I mean, it's just the condition. It's, if you saw it 6 months ago and I bought it, it looks the same. You're pushing on it as hard as you can to get the appointment so that you can present, not just so that you can win, but so you can get them to list it at the right value. Right? Like, well, part of my listing presentation is I want to review the photos with you. I want to, you know, and it's just difficult when we're talking and your computer, I want to review it with you so that, because I want you to understand what we're doing so that we can help you get the most amount of money. Because, I mean, Sharon just had a listing over in North Scottsdale. So it was a AOL deal. So everybody wanted to list it higher. And she talked to the sellers and she listed at $1 million and she got 14 offers in today's marketplace. And it sold for $175,000 over value. Now, of course, everybody wants to list it high, but if they list that thing at 1.1, well, maybe they get an offer. I mean, but you don't get that. I know that. But also, do they remember her now? Yeah, they love her, right? Like, that was because she told them, look at, because it's hey, worst case scenario, if I list it too low, we'll just get 15 or 20 offers. Is that a bad thing? No, because the first offer offered 1.2 and she was an agent, so she waived her commission and then they canceled. But when you have a backup offer, they just went to number 2 and number 2 took it and they got the same price. Like, it's the effect of creating those multiple offers and listing low is very powerful. And you're using the pictures to convince them of where you should price it. It's just a strategy to get them to realistically understand their price. Make sure that you bring backup Wi-Fi, because 30% of the time they don't know the password. They don't, I mean, Cody and I just went on one and we couldn't get there. We had to go to the backup Wi-Fi. And just know when you go to the backup Wi-Fi though, that this is why you got to know what pictures you want to click on and which ones you don't, because if you click on every picture, it slows it down. Because if you fumble through it, the picture showing, then it's not as good. Meaning you got to practice it. You got to be organized, right? You got to be prepared. Right now, listings are so competitive because there's so few of them that organization wins, preparedness wins. So if it's a couple, I like to sit between them at the table. I just nestle in between, put you on this side. Like, I want to get hey, I just want both of you to see it, because I know if we're here and that person's further away, because they're like, oh no, I don't need to see. I don't need to see. No, motherfucker, you need to see. I'm not kidding. Like, there's not an excuse that someone tells me that they don't need to see. Because that's the person that during the negotiation that comes back and says, well, what about the comp over there? Right? Like, you're like, well, I let that person win the conversation. Like, we're talking about the most important things of helping you understand value and why I'm going to get you the most amount of money. I don't bring comps because then they want to talk about what you brought, right? Like, I want to show them the pictures so that I can talk about my expertise as well. about the houses and the upgrades and the things, because you, during your research, you're noticing those things because you're trying to figure out pricing. So you can take some notes. It's okay to have notes there for you, right? If you don't have a good memory. And then I like to tell them that you set them up on a reverse CMA. Who doesn't know what a reverse CMA is?
I don't know what it is.
Thank you. Thank you. So you know how when a buyer's going to, how many of you, when a buyer is gonna make an offer, you email them comps? Right? You email them comps. Do we do that for the seller after we leave? What the idea is you create your safe search because you're gonna review it. Then after the appointment, you review it them so they can look at all the photos. So it's not, they're my comps. You're sharing, hey, what I'm gonna do is, and now you're also creating another follow-up item. But what the big benefit is in our MLS is if they click on it and they don't list, you set up an auto search and they keep on getting every time that they think that you're emailing them the solds every time it sells. I mean, I had a seller one time call me 6 years later. He's like, dude, your follow-up is amazing. He's like, you've been sending me comps. Like, I'm amazed that you could, like, every time something sells, you email it to me. I'm like, that's why you're here. And I'm like, yep. Remember how Phil's like, you're trying to create it one time. Well, you save search when you set up the automatic search and you sell the click. Once they click on it, they receive the updates every time because it says comps in your neighborhood. Anytime one is listed, active, or sold, because they're always going to click on an email that says a home listed or sold in your neighborhood. They can't help it. It's like candy for a baby. So that's what it says, email comps from MLS after the appointment. And it's just your safe search. But it's just another follow-up item after the appointment to show this is what we reviewed. And just a note, it just says comps from your subdivision. When I send that over to you, which email do you want me to send it to? That's usually when you get the best email. They're like, oh, send that one to this email.
Not my trash.
Not my trash email, yeah. All right, next. Questions? This is a
So I
listing
just
that
wanted,
Go ahead,
oh,
yep.
sorry. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask a question. So you find that sending an email with the comps instead of booking like a second appointment is a better option, so it gives them time to review it and then you can follow up? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're gonna review the comps. I'm gonna show you right now what we're gonna review in the comps with them, and then I'm gonna email what we reviewed to them, basically.
Okay, and you're following up, how often are you following up on that? Every day or how many times?
Great question, Carly, because in MLS, there's a thing that you can create an automatic search like you do for a buyer. That's why it's called a reverse CMA, because anytime a buyer wants homes in a neighborhood, we've all set up a search. They receive that every time a listing comes on the market. So now it automatically, as long as you set up that subscription in MLS, automatically, you don't have to follow up. It just sends it to them
Repeatedly until they say stop or make a decision?
Yeah, I have people that I went on a listing appointment in 2006. They're still receiving emails from me from that appointment that never sold. I haven't touched it since 2006. They might have gotten 700 emails over time, right? Like,
okay, good. That gives a good perspective. All right, cool.
yeah, you want to set it and forget it and get credit for it, and that's what you're doing there with that subscription. Is they're gonna click on it because you're gonna say, hey, because they're like, which one are these? Because they always pick comps that are all over the map. But these are your neighborhood comps. These are the stuff that are the most important. And I'm going to show you why, why it's most important. Did I answer your question, Carly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So here's an example. I like this example because we are the house at 1-1 on 16th Street. They close. If you can see, right, look at that price per square foot, $388. Right? So if I was pricing houses, right, like the idea is that house is a lot smaller, but it just shows you when the house is smaller, it can sell for a lot more because neighborhoods sell in a range. The difficult price about this one was the last 1-story comp was the 905. Now, it's 3,300 square feet. The subject property is 2,831 square feet. Now, of course, it had a little bit of a view and a 4-car garage, and that's what helped it sell for more. But it's, in this case, the comps are very confusing. Okay, but for this one, what happens when there's an over comp, which is a much larger house at 1.3, it allows the appraiser to use that. I mean, because essentially it's more of, there was just not a good house listed in a while. That's why the single level's not higher. The best house that was sold in the last year was this 2-story, and it got, thankfully, because it was a 950 comp and then a 1.3 comp. So is that house hard to price? Super, super, super hard to price because you're in no man's land, right? You don't have, because a lot of times we go into these subdivisions and it's a model match. You have 3 that just sold in the last 6 months. They're all like the same. There's no distinguishing factors, but we got 100 or 200,000 over the last 1-story comp. But their neighbors were telling them, well, shouldn't you list it for 1.5? Yeah, right. Like that. Yeah. But this is why I had to use pictures, because this client came back and said, thank you for showing us, because when the neighbor said that, say, well, what comp are you referring to? Like what's your, all right, so let's look at the picture. So what it is because you're sitting in the kitchen, you're going to say, this is our kitchen, and then this is comp 1 and comp 2.
And look how nice our front photo is.
Well, it's why we went with it's an exterior photo, not it doesn't have to be the front photo, but it sticks out.
Enticing.
Something enticing. Great job, Adam. Okay, so the picture on the left is my picture, and the picture on the right is the other pictures of the houses. So I just make it real simple and I say, is yours similar, better, or worse? And then I shut up. When we talked about this picture on the one that's on the bottom on the right compared to the one on the left, how would you describe that? Would you say it's similar, better, or worse than the one on the left?
Similar or better.
Okay, who else wants to guess?
I think your photo's better.
Not the photo, it's the contents. But were you saying confidence, Carly? Were
Yeah.
you talking about the upgrades? You think so? It's the granite's better, the stainless steel, or the beams, or whatever? You just okay.
Left
Yeah,
is
the angle and the lighting and the contents.
Okay. So helping you when we're gonna let's
Make it so you can see all 3.
oh, I think what I can do is go small. Yeah. All right. So just looking at these pictures, which one sold for more?
Yours. It looks bigger.
Well, technically the one on the right, because it sold for 1.3. That was the 1.3 photo. See that big kitchen because it's redone, it's upgrades, improvements. But the point is just the house, the bottom right photo sold for 905. I don't think that it's, I'm like, it's close. I mean, ours is better, but you're just, yeah. All right, let's look at the next photo.
They have nicer granny.
But the beautiful thing is we could talk about, they have courts, they redid the flooring, right? Like they added the backsplash over here. And also it's more open. This is a closed, I can't see it online. The one on the left is more of a closed kitchen with a little bit of opening versus being more open. Okay, so now this is bathrooms, but the same thing is because you're gonna focus on the 4 areas of the house, which are kitchen, master bathroom and bathrooms, outdoor space and flooring, and helping them understand, but you're trying to, because they always want to think that their house is not like it is so special, but when you're looking at those, it's just, because you're going back and forth. The thing that you have to keep yourself from is personal preference. Because if you don't like Tuscan, but it's really the quality of the upgrades are, I think the one on the left is a little better, but it's not, they're all redone, right? Like it's, obviously we like newer, but but we're on par with these other houses. We're not, similar, but so then we go back to comps. No, we're done. The point is, to show them the kitchen, the master bath, the pool area, the view of the sold house, so that then they apply that price to their house, right? Questions? What it is the kitchen, the master bath upgrades, and when I mean it's the upgrades, meaning if you have oak cabinets or you have maple cabinets, or if you have alder cabinets, right? Or you have custom cabinets, right? That means that house gets more. This is a beauty contest. And it's the quality of the materials in the beauty contest. But outdoor space, lot, and views have the most impact, because this property had a view in the back because it was up on a hill. So, and it had a 4-car garage in Central Phoenix, which is uncommon. Why I knew that if we priced it close, we got, the offer came in coming soon, full price. Right, like one person looked at the house. Right, because what happens is it forces that buyer, because that's how I got the extra money mostly, is the house was at least close to those other ones, and it had the view and the uncommon of a view and a garage, just like the negative, where it multiplies. If there's multiple negative things in each, like if the kitchen's dated and the master bath's dated, and like the more things that are wrong, the lower the price. The same thing with the higher the price, because we added, because anyone with a business or a car person, in this case, because the person that pays for the most views is an empty nester, because they sit in their house and drink coffee and they look at the view. That's just what, at nights and evenings, right? They sit on the patio, they get outside, they want to look at the view. Where families are busy and they're not as concerned with the view, meaning when your target audience, which in this case was the view person and a car guy, right? Because you wanted a car guy that wanted a view, and that's what, as long as we listed close, but because we had the overcomp, it allowed the other agent to say, wow, this is still worth it. The point there is just showing instead of emailing people comps without showing them the pictures and how it relates to their house, and that comp has to be, close to their house, because I only chose comps for the subdivision there was only, 86 houses or something in that subdivision.
Is that why you're able to use the comps that are 4,000 square feet per 2,800 square foot house?
Yeah, because the way it goes is, especially in areas where it's that builder. It's that age, it's that like anytime there's, so the wording I use is neighborhood sell and arrange, because neighborhoods are like families. And the reason why I use that analogy is because the builder used 2x6 construction in this subdivision, but they used 2x4 construction over here. They used they didn't use clay tiles, they used cement tiles, which were more expensive. And you know, the materials in building this is, or better insulation and those things that all, you know, run the same in the subdivision. I mean, if it's a Toll Brothers subdivision and they have 3 levels or 4 levels, you know that there's why there's a difference. It's funny that later on it doesn't show up as much, but that's why, because you know that those houses were built at the same time. You know that if it has a step up that those other ones have, like there's little unique builder features that are why it's like family. You can't help that you look like your dad or your mom, right? Like the builder has, we know that those are the best comps. If it's available, I'd rather go older in the subdivision than I would to go newer outside. I just use whatever is best in my favor, but good question. What else? Okay, showing your work with a picture, because this is what they get after. This is what the follow-up email looks like. I listened. I'm just trying to, in this case, because you're like, oh, well, that looks just like the Scanlon. No, 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 this is different. I've done an analysis of your house. Now I want to show you how much I can type. Right? The idea is, and we took this from Kenny Kloss, it's the pros should be 3 to 4 times the cons. You don't want a lot of cons, right? The cons mean that there'd be a preparation list. This house needed a lot of work. Why that preparation list? If you can see, it's pros, cons, preparation list, pricing, commission, and then my marketing is called, if you ever see this email go out, it's called the CBOC Advantage of what we do to market houses, if anyone wants to read that, but it just shows our marketing plan. If you don't know what a marketing plan is, it's, go ahead. Huh? Oh, okay, next one. But the point is now I have 2 things to show my work after the listing appointment, because now I have the comps that I sent them, and right, because you think about, because the hardest thing is what to send somebody after the listing appointment. You're like, right now you built an appointment that always has 2 things that go to that. Instead of going back a second time, Carly, ideal. I mean,
Sure, okay.
I've tried the 2-step appointment, and I thought that, can I not? I thought I looked better to sellers by going one time and naming price, meaning it shows your area expertise, because you should be able to walk in a house and be pretty close. If you preview a lot, you get closer. That's why I always harp on previewing, is so that you have more education to try and in this situation versus let me look at your house and then, you know, that was the old school, because we couldn't see the pictures is what that was created for, is because you would walk into a house blind, and that's a lot harder. Now we have so much information that we should be able to determine it to go one time. For luxury listings, sometimes it's a 2-step, just some people set up a 2-step appointment is so that I can come first and then last, right? To kind of come back so that they don't sign a listing agreement, because sometimes people sign. I don't know if that helped you, Carly.
Yeah, no, that absolutely does.
I mean, you can do it however you want. I mean, I haven't done a 2-step in 8 years, maybe. It's something I used to, it's more you're putting a lot of pressure on that second appointment.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, it's a little bit more assertive. Trying to gain a little more control the second time rather than giving him a little bit of time to think, but still following up.
Yeah, that's what I sell the stager to go out the second time. My goal is not to have to go twice. I mean, every time you go, it's better to have one good presentation than to have two, because then you have diarrhea of the mouth and yeah. Okay, so now this is showing your pictures during negotiation. This is just talking about, because the hardest part after listing appointments is following up, because you don't know what to say. Right? You're just trying to find out if you won or not. That's why we're doing these things, to create two items, the stager and the listing notes, to have things to call to talk about with the seller versus just calling to ask for the business. Okay, next. All right, negotiating, that slide's out of order. I gotta fix that, but that's not for you guys. Okay, so the whole idea of doing the pictures in the listing appointment is to get them to list at a better price, because they understand that their house is similar to that house and therefore the price should be similar, or if the market's gotten better or worse. So this is during the listing appointment, you have to unequivocally tell them that we know that if you don't get a lot of traffic and no offers in the first week, we're overpriced. It's the only thing that's wrong. Right? You have to, in some way, articulate that script to them, that because you want to be able to lower list price faster. Now, of course, that sellers think that that's not the best method, but it is the best method, right? I mean, it's what I do in my houses is I lower the price once a week, right? Like on that, and it equated to a sale, right? So, because the idea is, when you look at these traffics, is the traffic diminishes over time. Why does the traffic diminish over time?
Because there's only a certain amount of buyers that fits. So
Right.
once you hit that number,
Correct.
buyers in that.
Right. And that's what you need to explain to people. Depending on your house, you might have 500 to 700 people that will be interested in the house. Once they've all seen it, now you're just looking for the new people that are coming to the market because they've already seen it at that price and they're like, it's too high. Now we got to re-attract those people with something aggressive, and that's what the lower the price is. Because we have one chance to make an impression with these people. And when we come out, if it's too high and they choose not to buy, and now we go on the market for 20 days, now they think something's wrong with it. So now they want to offer less because they don't know what's wrong with it. No one else is buying it. They justify themselves that it's overpriced. And now if they don't see the price reduction, they wait. They're waiting for it, because what it is buyers don't like to waste time and agents don't like to waste time. What is not talked a lot about is that agents get fired when they write an offer that doesn't work out. A lot of time buyers blame the agent if they make an offer and it does, because they feel they're wasting their time, right? Like, because if they're writing on a house, they want to win. Of course, 10% of buyers, they just want to write on offers and, but I'm just talking about the bulk of people. But in this case, we're trying to negotiate list price, so I just wanted to cover that point while we were on it. So you want to prepare them during the listing appointment that, like, we've been selling houses for a long time. We know what the best marketing is, and that if our marketing works best, but it has to be price right. Like, no marketing is better than price. Meaning, it's not like an agent can sell the house. They could sell it for a higher price than we could sell it. I'm sure at some level, but I mean. We can sell our houses for more than the cell phone guy, you know what I mean? Or we can change the compression of the house, or we can change the listing. Those things we can raise price a little bit. But it's hard when it's listed. It's still on every site and everybody still got to see it, and something has to change. Okay. So when you're going to ask for a price reduction, you have to show your work. If you call, they don't, it's hard to believe you, right? Because they have their opinion, you have your opinion. When you're just calling, now if you prepared it for them, now you're going to say, I told you, and now here's what happened. Okay. And then when you send it, you want to send a chart from a third party source, not your writing. You want it to be their writing. You want it to be from MLS. You want it to be from Zillow. You want it to be, look at, I got 300 extra views on Instagram. That would be additional traffic because it's not a real estate site, meaning when you go on Zillow, let's take a look at it. But the last point on this is you want to send the picture and then you want time to happen. Minimum 4 hours, hopefully overnight. Hey, you know what? I got an appointment tonight. I will text you later the comps and then we'll talk tomorrow around 1 o'clock. Because you want the pictures to tell them a story, let them become educated, but then also convinced, so that when you talk, you can't just send the chart and let them look at it, because you're not giving them a chance to really understand the data. So what are you going to send them whenever you want to negotiate price? The idea is you want to set it up before. This is just a slide from something that I like to present people in the listing appointment, is the impact of price on visibility, right? Because buyers come in saying, show me the most expensive houses first or the least expensive houses first? Anyone want to guess? Least. Yeah. Well, can I get that same house at a lower price? That's what, I mean, and that's what you need to explain to sellers. Like, people don't go like, how much can I spend? That's silly. Just think about any time you're trying to buy something, or you're being like, well, how much can I spend above market for? Like no, we're going to look at the houses that are lower, and then we're going to inch up. Okay, all right, I need this feature. And that's why it has such the impact on price. But that picture is more than you just saying, if you list it high, no one comes. This is you articulating with the photo. If you can see, when I first explained that you're going to tell them, well, if it's not listed, it wasn't a sticky. When I have this picture, you're like, asking price, like it's okay to send it to them and be like, asking price relative to market value. If you list it 10 or 15, if you list it 15% over value, you're only going to get 10% of the people to look at it. Now we got to hope that our best buyer is one of those 10%, versus if we list it below, we'll get 9. The silly thing is, if you list it below 15%, you're still only going to get 90% of the people to look at it. Okay. When I say text them a photo, you go to Zillow and you take a picture. This is exactly what I send. I would even use on the MacBook, it's Command Shift 4, and then it's I think it's on the
PC Windows Shift S.
Windows Shift S, so that you can put arrows on this. I love editing these slides. But if you see there, 38 saves 1,200 views. As long as you told them in the listing appointment there's going to be anywhere, okay, cool. Well, pretty much everybody's seen it. What new information are we going to tell them to make it more attractive? Are we going to upgrade your house? Or like, I know, like, I wanted to sell it for more, but none of these people were even coming to our house. Everybody's seen it and no one came. That's an indication we're overpriced. But now you at least showed them unequivocally with people, and why I like this slide is because it's very specific, meaning the first day, 38 people looked at it. The second day, 71 people looked at it. The next day, 45, right? 31, right? Because this week we're looking at the last 30 days you've had, and now, you know what I mean? Because typically, if we have 15 to 20 saves, we should have an offer. If you don't have an offer, it's overpriced. So you're gonna text this picture to them and then, hey, I'll talk to you tomorrow, but I just wanted to show you what the activity's been. I mean, you should be calling them with about the interest in the more communication is always needed from listing agents to the seller.
Because you don't want to only talk to them when you want a price reduction.
Right.
You give them good news.
You want to be taught, oh my God, I got a showing today, text. Oh my God, I got another show. I got someone reach out about HOA. I got someone that, like, to me, you want to be the communicator to them, and you want to communicate what's important and what's not important.
How do you feel about setting them up for automatic showing notifications on showing time?
Yeah, we don't use Showtime anymore, Carlos.
You mean so they get pinged when there's a showing if it's a vacant house?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that's we right now just have them set to get the feedback responses. But it's not sometimes it's not bad. Also, they usually get alerted when the lockbox is popped. That just lets them know that showings are happening. So it's not a bad idea. That way, when a showing happens, it's another touch point for you, or you can call them and just let them know.
Right.
Hey, we got a showing coming up this weekend. I talked to them. The buyer said this, let them show me.
Right. The idea is that if they get that notice, you should be then following up and say, this is what they thought. This is what they thought. The seller's expectation is that you're going to talk to everybody that comes through the house.
Yeah.
And if you start early with, I talked to this guy and I talked to this guy and I talked to this guy, then you don't have to do it every single time. If you don't do it at all, then they're like, oh, you're not following up. Right? Like, because how many of these people did you talk to is the common question. That first day, how many of those did you talk to? If you haven't talked to anyone, you're not doing your job. Your job is to find out what and the thing is you know the answer. It doesn't matter. That's not what the seller wants to hear. They want to hear it from the buyer. You know how when I tell you something and then you hear another agent like Jason Mitchell or Ryan Serhant say it, you're like, oh, right. Well, it's because we said it a couple times and now you hear it over there and you're like, oh, because you've been educated already and now it sticks out when they say that, like, oh, I should start doing that now. Right. So but that's just the way it is. They want to know that you're talking to the people and you say, okay. And the thing is when you're talking to them, the key question you want to ask, if you want to write something down, this would be the one to write it down. When you talk to the agent, at what price would they make an offer? Not, are they interested? Are you interested doesn't help you because 99% of the time it's no, because they didn't call you back. You know they're not interested. Stop asking questions you know the answer to. If they didn't write an offer, at least if you say, at what price, they're like, oh, it wasn't the right area. Cool. Then you tell them, oh, you were like just outside of their area and it wasn't perfect for them. So they said no, right? Like they're only looking for, and perfect might be if it doesn't have a pool, is they really wanted the pool and you don't have a pool and you're outside of area. So now we're no. But he said that he would buy it if you lower the price by $75,000 and added a pool. So I told him to go pound sand. Okay, good, done. Now, I mean, but now you're doing your job. You're actually educating them so they have a feel from the traffic because they don't know. They only know what you tell them. Next. This is just showing the reality of life listed. I'll go back. This is going to happen on every listing. You want to educate them that there's a pool of buyers that are for us. It ranges from 200 people to 2,000, depending on if you're one level, $300,000 house in Scottsdale, you might have 5,000 buyers interested because that house is listed 100,000 below the lowest priced single family house in Scottsdale. But most people don't, they want to price it higher, so the price is what limits the buyer pool for that house. But and the other thing is if you can show a comparative, next slide. So my goal in this one was just to show them what the neighbor's getting. Right? And of course, they're like, well, it's the photos. No, it's the photos of your house. Just kidding. But the point is, it's because when you list a house, they don't know what it should be. I mean, that's what the goal of having the listing appointment is, say, well, I'm expecting we're going to have about 600 or 700 people who are going to be interested in this house. Right. And my goal is to try and get 1,000 people or 1,200 to look at it. Right. But the one that has the 39 saves is more likely to sell than the one with 6 saves. So you're just showing them we're not drawing enough traffic. And the reason is because we're priced too high. Right? We could have those same views if we want to be more aggressive. I don't know why it says likely to sell faster than 99.
Yeah, it's a new thing on Zillow.
Likely to sell faster than 99%. I don't know where they're getting that metric. It's something
Estimate, it has to be.
new that popped up. Yeah, based maybe price versus
Yeah.
estimate.
I mean, my thing is that I have whiteout. I probably would just white that out and send it to them before I take the picture because I don't want it. In this case, it says that it's Zillow's. Be sure you're not sending something that counteracts what you said. I just noticed that. So, good deal. The point here was just a comparative to another house to show them whether they're better or worse. Same thing why we do the photo comparison. But you're talking about the traffic on Zillow. You might want to send the traffic on realtor.com, send the traffic on MLS, right? Like just to show them, okay, we kind of got 2,000 people to look at it. We don't have any offers. I don't know. This all goes out before you have price conversations. Okay. We're done with time. That was it. Just trying to use photos more in what we do to be more effective. So happy Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
You
you.
rock. I wish I could be.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you, guys.